Welcome to Extremely Valid Points.
We're three business owners and friends who enjoy talking about business, marketing, and creativity.
Along the way, we just might happen to make some extremely valid points.
So we'd love it if you would join us in today's conversation.
Hi, and thanks for joining us today. We're your co-hosts. I'm Dave Wilkins.
I'm Nathan Sala.
And I'm Jenny Sala.
And we're going to talk a little bit today about video content creation for marketing funnels. So thanks for joining us, and we'll get right into it.
By the way, this is the second part of a four-part episode, a four-part series that we are doing on sales funnels and building a sales funnel. So if you missed last week's, be sure to check that out because we talked about what is a sales funnel and what all the parts of it are and why we need it. This week, we're talking about video and how video works in a sales funnel. Next week, we're going to talk about lead generators, how to capture leads and get emails through creating lead generators such as PDF or freebies. And then we will wrap it up with talking about how to nurture those leads through an email marketing campaign. Sorry, I jumped in there and interrupted, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that this is a really comprehensive series we're doing right now. And this is just one part of many parts that can be really informative for anybody who's interested in learning marketing and sales funnels.
So we had a really good previous episode just to kind of explaining what the marketing funnel strategy is all about and the different phases of that. So as you mentioned before, content is the fuel that really drives the marketing funnel engine, right? So you've got that funnel, which is like a profit-making engine or a lead-generating engine. But in order to make that go, you need content, right? So content can be all kinds of things. It can be written PDF or blogs, anything like that. It can be stories, etc. But video is a great way to have content that you can connect with your audience with, right? So that's of course what I do day in and day out. So thanks for the opportunity to just kind of talk about that a little bit more with you guys.
You're the video master. Thank you for bringing some knowledge and teaching us how we can apply video to our funnels.
Dave is a video extraordinaire. He's been doing this for how many years, Dave?
Well, let's see. I've been doing video for probably the last 15 or so.
15 years. Awesome. And I've seen a lot of his work, and he does great work. I have to say, like, one of the things I think that you do really well that I would say I see you do better than a lot of people is really invoke emotion and inspiration. And you just seem to have a knack for that. I don't know why or how that is, or if it's just like some raw talent, or if it's something that you've honed in on and intentionally gotten good at. But that's what I see in Dave's work. So anyway, today we're going to talk about the different stages in the buying process and how to move your clients down farther into the buying process and farther into the sales funnel using video. So the first stage of the buying process is exploring. This is when people are just trying to decide whether or not they're even interested in buying product or service, or if it's something that they might even want. And then the next stage is gathering. And this is when a consumer is getting all the information they need. They're educating themselves and learning about the products and features and different aspects, pricing, and they're getting all the information so they can make an informed decision. Then the next stage of the buying process is actually making that decision. And then once that happens, they become a customer. Then the final stage in the sales process is becoming a champion or retention, keeping that customer, because we know once somebody becomes your customer, they can become a customer for life. And it's easier to sell to someone who's already purchased from you than it is to sell to a new person. So it's like really important to have, to create a champion, someone who will actually bring more business your way, tell their friends about you, and keep coming back and keep buying. So, Dave is going to tell us about how to create a video to meet each person in that buying process. Dave, tell us about what you would do for a client who is just exploring and getting to know you.
Well, just like we had talked about, there are different stages of the funnel strategy, right? So you want to create content that's going to connect with your audience at whatever stage they're at. So when you start off in that first phase, which is like the exploring or the awareness phase, where you're really just you're casting that wide net, you don't want to get overly detailed or down in the weeds at that point, right? You're really trying to use video to sort of capture someone's imagination, to speak to a pain point, but you don't want to start talking too much about like, and this is our process, and here's this and that. You definitely want to have a call to action, but it should be a little bit, it should be clear, but it shouldn't be too detailed, right? So great types of video content for this stage would be something that's like a branding type of video. Mm-hmm. So that's, has kind of your lifestyle. It projects the image and the type of brand, positioning that you have. Because that's going to be great because you're going to obviously connect with some viewers or show viewers, I'm not into fitness. I'm going to scroll on, or I'm definitely into fitness. What is this new product or service, right? So you want a branding type of video is going to work really well because you're not getting too deep into the problem solving, but you're probably addressing a problem. You're going to say, you're going to have a proposition out there where someone can connect and say like, oh yes, I definitely want to learn how to, target my abs or whatever it might be. Right. So you can kind of have that general problem solving, but nothing too detailed.
Right. So I just want to once again jump in there and say on the topic of branding and creating a branding video, if you want to know more about branding, we've done some podcasts on what is branding and common branding mistakes. So check that out as well. Just a shameless plug there.
Are there any other types of videos you think that might be good for this? I can think of a few, but just in your experience, I'm wondering if you've seen some things.
Yeah, so they're at the beginning of the sales process. They're just exploring and probably at this point trying to decide whether or not they even want the product or service that you're offering, right? So I think branding and showing the lifestyle of, would be a great way. And with video, and we talked about this a little bit last week, video has a great way to show more than tell. And so I think a lot of, video showing how your life is better with this product or service and showing how problems are solved with this product or service would be a really great way to kind of capture people's interest and kind of draw them in a little bit. Yeah. What do you think, Nathan?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, piggybacking off that topic, creating some content that is educational can also be a good way to get into this awareness phase, right? So that way, it's something where you can offer, again, like we talked about before, a little bit of knowledge or something where you're teaching or training, but maybe not going all the way in depth. You're just piquing people's interest, right? You're kind of saying, hey, here's another way to think about your problem, right? And we can help. So educational type videos, training type videos can be good at this process as long as they don't go too detailed or too deep. Another thing would be like a documentary, right? So you might have a client success story or some kind of a profile type video that you can use so that people can connect, as you mentioned before, Jenny, where people can see themselves in this process and basically seeing how you could help them to achieve something that someone else has already achieved, right? Mm-hmm. They've kind of gone over a hurdle. And then if they see that like really drawn out and demonstrated for them, they think, oh, this is exactly what I want to do, right?
Right.
So that kind of a video can work really well at this stage.
So just to recap, you're saying first you determine kind of what stage of your audience they're in, and then you determine kind of the content that they will be shown.
Yeah, exactly. So for your wide net kind of thing, you want to have really be promoting the kind of video that just is going to help someone to really place themselves in your context, right? And I think, as we mentioned before, the call to action should definitely be there. It should be clear without being overly, hitting them over the head necessarily, but really because what you want to do is create that call to action all throughout the video, right? It should be felt as much as it is like spelled out, right? Because I think the thing with video too is that it should lead them to that next step, which may be outside of video, right? Because it's going to call them to come to your website. It's going to call them to enter your email address, something that kind of takes them out of the video process. But you want to be thinking of what that call to action needs to be for your video. And you're setting that up the whole way through the video so that it makes sense and it feels organic, right? Not just like slapped on the end, give us your email, right? And should, how you want that need, that I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of the mission. I want to be a part of that journey. And so that call to action should feel like just the natural outgrowth of taking that journey that I've just been on.
Right. Yeah. And we've been talking about storytelling and how important it is to kind of lead people into the story. Our brains are wired for story, and video is such a great way to tell a story. And what I kind of hear you saying is we're going to present people with this problem and a solution, and we're going to draw them in and bring them on this journey that leads to that next step.
Exactly.
That call to action.
Right.
And so for the people that are in this exploring awareness phase, it sounds like you're saying that the video for that group or that target, maybe they're not even in the funnel yet. Maybe this is trying to get them into the funnel with the call to action. Would you say?
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think we're used to this idea of like a series or episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great thing is you want to get them wanting that more content, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they can, and we've all done this, right? Fallen down the YouTube rabbit hole where
Right.
you see something and you realize, oh, this is a creator that I want to check out more, or whatever it is you want to subscribe and you want to find out more. And that's exactly the type of thing that we're trying to create here, is that momentum of, and so you have to be careful not to try to do all things in your one video. And that can be tempting because you might think like, oh, I'm going to spend the time and energy and money to create a video. It needs to answer all the questions. It needs to, point to all of my marketing points. But you're going to really do yourself a disservice if you try to, get all of those objectives accomplished in one video. Really, you just want to keep them wanting something more, or how do I find out more? How do I become a part of this, really?
So, Dave, can you think of an example of a video that you've done for somebody in this exploring phase?
Sure. I do a lot of work for local nonprofits and organizations around the local community. So we did one for a domestic violence shelter. And so this was something that went out on broadcast TV. And basically, it was just kind of showcasing the fact that we do have available resources for people that are in a domestic violence situation, for women and children that need a safe place to go. And so really, it was just creating the awareness of that, all with a sort of call to action that was very light. It wasn't a big aggressive push for donations. That's the big thing, with nonprofits. That is a lot of times that's the end goal, right? To help people to help support, right? So that message was an end goal of that. But really, we were trying to create awareness that it's here, it's available, and you can help support us. And it was actually part of that was a thank you that you already have been supporting us. If you don't know about us, check us out here. Mm-hmm. So it was very much at that beginning stage approach.
Got it.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so that goes on TV. I would assume like a lot of the commercials you see on TV are are in this gathering stage. They're trying to just introduce you to, say, hey, here's who we are. If you want to know more, take this next step. Call this toll-free number. Go to this website.
Yeah.
Download this thing, or go to this physical location, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And in this particular case, we showed, a mom and her daughter, and the fact that a lot of times people feel trapped. They don't have a safe place to go, but there is a safe place. So it was very, kind of an emotional appeal. And so again, whether you saw yourself, I need a safe place, or hey, I want to support people having a safe place, you could find yourself fitting into the story. And again, it was just that ability to sort of place yourself in that context.
All right. So let's talk about the next phase or stage, the gathering. What would you do for somebody in that stage?
So here, you already know that somebody's interested in your product or service, right? You've kind of tapped into an audience that is curious already, right? So now you can become more detailed, right? So you can begin to show maybe like a case study, right? Or a testimonial type of a video, something that would be able to show people like, oh, if I engage your services, or if I buy your product, how is this actually going to fit into my life, right? So that's why like a video that actually explains a little bit more in depth is going to be helpful here. And that could be even another series. So if you've captured the email, the great thing would be to send out a drip campaign that says, here's the 5 parts of our service. Here's how to get started. Here's what will happen at this phase. Here's what will happen at this phase. And then, then especially if you do have your client saying, hey, when I bought this product, within 2 weeks, my business turned around. Or when I engaged this service, I noticed that all these problems that I were having became, they had the solutions to transforming my business. You almost have that permission now to be talking a little bit more marketing talk, right? A little more direct into the weeds of the business, right?
Right. Because those are the kinds of things people are expecting to be educated on and have questions about.
Exactly.
So last week we talked about how it's really good before you even hire a marketing company or a videographer to help you, that you should know what are some problems you're solving for your clients and what kind of questions do people ask when they're in this buying process. So if you know those types of questions, a video might be a really great way to answer those.
Exactly. That's a great point. So think of those frequently asked questions, right? And address them, but don't, address maybe 1 or 2 per video, probably just one laser focused. And then, have that call to action. Check out the next video on this particular problem or question. So that way you're going to continue this process of development, going on a journey, and you're not overwhelming them, right? So you're getting specific, but only specific on a certain topic.
Right.
And the other thing is, once you're drawing them into that series, they're investing in you, right? They're investing their time. So maybe they haven't invested their money. They haven't put their, checkbook out there yet, but the more they get invested in that process, the time that they put in, that and investment that they put in is going to lead them to be a little bit more biased to jumping in all the way.
Right, because they've already spent time with you. They're consuming your content. So they watch 1 minute video, and then you invite them to watch another, and they watch that, and then you invite them to watch another, and then before you know it, they feel connected with you, trusting you,
Exactly,
and invested. What are some things that video can do in this stage that would benefit you more than just having like an FAQ page on your website?
The challenge is to not just be providing information, but really to provide that reassurance kind of that, oh, okay, I know I have this problem. I know there's this element of trying to solve that problem, but what does that look like in real life, right? What does it feel like to see myself jumping over that hurdle? So you're really trying to help them to visualize, oh, I've successfully conquered this problem that I have. And that's can be done really well with good copy, right? But here's a chance for them to you're really massaging that whole part of their senses, right? Because you got the right music, you've got visuals where they can see this themselves, hopefully, overcoming the obstacle. So it's really just about kind of placing them in that mindset of, oh, I can do this. I can solve this problem. I just need someone's help, right? They're the hero and you're the guide. We'll guide you through. You can do it. We'll show you how.
Love it.
Can you think of any examples, either things you've done or like just a real world example to sort of illustrate like this type, like what kind of scenario would this video be best used?
I was just reminded, as we've been talking about this, I was just reminded of a particular YouTube doctor that I watched probably a dozen videos from him. And this was when Nathan and I were just starting to get interested in the keto diet. And I was really trying to educate myself on what this was and how it worked. And his content really drew me in, and it was just very informative. But what I ended up doing was buying a lot of his supplements because he was telling me what kinds of supplements I needed on this type of diet, and what would help and what wouldn't, and educating me about insulin and all of these things and the importance of good sleep. And so next thing you know, I'm buying some sleep aid, but it was a result of me studying and consuming his content for several hours probably before I went to his website and bought some of his supplements. So I think that's a good example of how that type of thing would work.
Yeah, exactly. And, also to be thinking about, what types of initial sort of like maybe trial offers of small things where you can have a customer make small steps to get involved, taking them from that, okay, I'm consuming your content, but now how can I begin to incorporate this? You'll have that 3% that are like, how do I sign up for the entire course, or how do I buy all your stuff, right? That would be great if everyone was that way. But you can, you were giving this knowledge away for free, but how can I just try something out to see how well it fits in my life? So again, having those specific targeted videos that once you have that connection point with them, you can send them that information of, hey, here's something where you can just try out this 30-day trial, or here's a small bit, a free sample of something, so you can see how this fits into your life, right? And I think trying to you have those data hopefully that you're collecting so that you can know maybe do I want to send them this campaign, which is more full, the full enchilada,
right?
Or should I send them something like they haven't bought anything yet, so maybe I'll send them this tier service or product pitch, or maybe I feel like they've already purchased these, maybe they're ready for this next step. So if you get more sophisticated, you can begin to like decide which content you're going to try to push to them.
Right. And so, keeping in mind, are they in the beginning of the gathering stage, or are we getting down to the bottom where we can possibly move them into that deciding phase? And sometimes the thing that will move someone into a deciding phase is giving them an offer, creating some kind of promotion that, okay, now that you know all this, here's the next step, a free 30-day trial, or a limited time offer of a lower price, a low introductory rate of some type.
Yeah.
Or a free consultation, any kind of offer that makes sense for your product or service. That would be a great way to move them into that next phase where they're becoming a customer and they're deciding to work with you.
Yeah, because really now you're starting to get now down into that decision phase, right? So giving them something that they can actually decide that they want to make that next step.
Yeah. And so how do you do that in a video? What are some ways that you can kind of compel people to action that you could do better in a video than, in written content or with a photo or something like that?
Sure. So this is where you could actually start to demonstrate so here's how this product works.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think it's there's a lot of products out there that once you understand how they work and what they do, you would want it. But there's a little bit of a learning curve involved to get them to understand why how it solves problems for them and how it works, because it's so new. And if that were the case, then a video is really the best way, show not tell.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you watch Shark Tank, some of the sharks will respond with the entrepreneur and say, this is a product that has to be demonstrated.
Right.
So like, in order for me to understand what this is and whether or not I need it, I have to see you do this, visual presentation where, say, it's a cleaning product or something like that,
Right.
where,
Big Daddy, what was that?
Scrub Daddy?
Scrub Daddy.
Right.
It's, infomercial worthy product, right?
Right.
Sure. It's like showing how easy it is or how well it works or something like that.
Yeah, I think at this phase they've come with you on the journey because they've bought into your brand.
Mm-hmm.
They already you've kind of given them the more romantic lifestyle feeling, so you don't have to focus on that so much anymore. You still want to make sure you're staying on brand and staying on message, but now you can actually they've sort of given you permission to talk to them in very specifics, right? This is probably the time where they're really trying to kick the tires, do a test drive. So these videos could be a little bit more down and dirty in the sense of like a training video or just, hey, this is me and I'm going to open up this new software. I'm going to show you how this plugin works to this program, and let's go through and see it's here's how we're going to create an invoice with my new software, or I'm going to demonstrate a plugin for your digital audio workstation, and here's how it works on your mixes, whatever it might be. You're kind of showing them the down and dirty. This is how it works. This is how easy it is. But this is exactly what to expect, right? So it's when you've shopped through all the things on Amazon, but you want to look at the specs on it and see, well, what kind of batteries does it take? Well, all the finer details. This is where you're able to address all those very specific concerns that they might have and say, yes, okay, I think this is going to fit exactly what I need, and I'm going to go ahead and hit buy.
All right, so let's talk about how we can both provide sales and marketing to existing customers. How can we use videos to keep engaging with somebody who's already purchased from us?
Yeah. Well, I think it's great if you can involve your clients or your customers at this point. You can use client testimonials throughout, but I think this is a chance where you could actually start to form a community, right? Where people contribute and say, hey, because everybody has access to video now. So you can now allow people to sort of contribute their story, their voice back into that process to say, hey, man, I did this for 30 days. You won't believe the difference it's made in my life. And it's something where it'll kind of, again, it's that loyalty. They're able to sort of give back to the community, feel like I'm a part of this, right? And other people are watching this, and either they might be getting tips from a fellow user of your product or service, but they're reminded that, oh yeah, this is not only working for me, it's working for other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also to be able to generate content that they can share with, and it's easily shareable on social media, et cetera. And if you can kind of incorporate some of their story to that, that's great. But anything that you can sort of incentivize people, right? Like, hey, tag this, share this on your timeline, and maybe have an affiliate program where they can get 10% off, whatever it is. But you want to be able to, the great thing about media like this, it is so shareable that we can basically kind of, invite them to be part of our marketing team for us, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, creating content that is going to address, I think, the community and give them tips and tricks within that, how to continue to get the most out of your product or service. So this could be, hey, you may not have realized this, but if you use this particular product this way, you'll get a different outcome. So those hidden little things that make them feel like, hey, I'm a part of this, I'm going to be a power user or something like that. Those are really valuable to helping them continue with your service, right? To resubscribe every time if you have kind of a subscription service, or to buy that product again. I don't want to ever be without this. So you have sort of those insider type of videos, and again, these can be very efficient. I would say a little bit. They don't have to be quite as polished a lot of times because you've already established. You always want to stay on brand, so have quality logos. Make sure things are. Good sound is critical in video. A lot of times people don't realize how important sound is, but people will watch a poorly filmed video with good audio, but they'll turn off a good looking video that sounds terrible. So keeping things brief, but having that content out there that just gives them the extra bang for the buck for the services they've already purchased. And then having that that outbound sort of material that they can feel that they want to share because they love what you do. And I want to tell everyone about this. How do I do that? Well, you should have content that's readily available for them to share.
It's good. So I'm trying to imagine like what types of videos people might want to share. And I kind of see, I'm envisioning, we're looking for product ambassadors, right? We're looking for people to be champions for our brands. People, first of all, you have to have a product that people love so much that they're willing to tell their friends about it. So you kind of have to already have that going for you, right? There's, I can think of a few clients or types of businesses that maybe you just aren't ever going to get people that excited about what you do to the point where they're going to brag to their friends. Sure. Like, if a pest control company did a great job getting rid of my rats, I don't want anybody to know I have rats.
Yeah, exactly.
But so in terms of lifestyle, there kind of has to be some sort of like braggability, like aspect to it, like that this product or service makes me cool. It elevates my life. I love it so much. I want everybody to know I have it and that they should have it too.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is if you have for shareable type of content, it could be, this is where you want to have your most entertaining type of stuff, right? Where I love this video simply for the fact that it's funny or that it's cool or something like that, where you could kind of, people will share commercials even if they don't use the service sometimes. Right. So you want to have it something that has a little bit of a hook or it as intrinsic value just in the content itself, right? I think people are apt to share those kinds of things. So, if humor fits your brand, that's a definite win. If maybe you have a certain image that's very hip, trendy, etc., that's going to be another thing because people want to be associated with that. Maybe they don't want to be associated with having rats, but if you had a funny video about pest control, they might be like, oh, I'm going to share this because I believe in this company and this is funny. Or, maybe it's clothing or something like that where they wouldn't necessarily think about sharing, this is where I bought my latest, coat, but this video is cool. I'm going to share this because I want to be associated with this brand.
It's good. Yeah. And I think and if you have a product or service that's kind of new and you can have the branding aspect of it being new and hip or something like that, when you're going after early adopters and people who are willing to say, oh, yes, I want to be the first to try this and all of my friends need to know about it.
Yeah.
Those types of products would be really great
to
get to share.
Yeah, because you want to capitalize on the people that love being in the know, love finding a good deal and, sharing that with people. Because it's a little bit of that, like, hey, I'm someone who knows about this. I found it first.
Right.
Let me tell you about it. Right.
Yeah, there's a little bit of an aspect of being able to brag by sharing.
Exactly.
Although our egos won't admit that.
Well, there's a huge focus in the marketing world about reaching those influencers and reaching those people who are the early adopters, are the trendsetters. Those are the people that really control the market. Because if you can get one of these people in the market to wear your shoes, then pretty soon everybody else is going to start, copying them and wearing their shoes. And so a lot of times, having those influencers share your videos or creating their own video on your behalf is a great way to carry out this point, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, as we talked about going down the funnel, there's a little bit of, you really want to be polished and well thought out up front. And then as you go down, you can get a little bit more guerrilla filmmaking, right? Because you want to make sure you have a lot of content. So one of the things you want to do is really, as we, go back and look at the branding podcast, so that you develop and exactly the elements of your brand, develop how, sort of a style guide and video elements that you can reuse so that you're not reinventing the wheel every time. But especially if you work with an agency or something like that can help set you up to be able to establish reusable content so that you can have those polished elements and then have times where, hey, I'm going to grab my iPhone. I just thought of something I want to share with my customers and clients. I can use this template that's been set up for me to be able to have a little bit more of a down and dirty guerrilla film, piece of content, but it still feels like it's in the context of a well-polished brand.
It's good. So what I hear you saying is it would be wise to invest up front in the larger scope of drawing people in type of, to have that be more polished and more professional. And then also, if you're on a budget, getting those elements done by a professional and then kind of duct taping it together on your own.
Yeah.
If you need to.
Well, and once you've kind of brought people down and they feel like, hey, I'm on board, I'm with you guys, then it almost feels like
more personal.
We're friends, and so we're FaceTiming each other, or we're, this is something only for me. I'm a behind the scenes look. It feels a little more raw, but people kind of enjoy that. Once you've already established the fact that you're an expert, you know what you're doing, you have the ability to produce something polished, but this is a quick, I got to get this out to you right now. And because you're in the know, you get to see behind the scenes, right?
Nice. Do you think that will, so if I start out with kind of a really raw video to begin with, what do you think how that might be received from people? Can you talk about the difference between, if I have a well-produced, wide, expansive kind of reach video versus one that I've done on my iPhone at home?
So one of the things we like to do is to help our clients to be able to address all these different types of content needs. So we will be there to produce the highly polished video. We will be there to create assets for them for the things that they need to kind of do a little bit more DIY. We'll also coach them and train them through those things so that when they are doing maybe iPhone video for a quick product demo or something like that, they know, okay, here's some lighting things I need to be aware of. Here's some sound things, right? Maybe we've set them up with some gear for them to do that. Maybe they set up a time to do a series of things where they knock it out pretty quickly here in our studio. So we'll try to work through them through the different phases of the content they'll need. But you do want to have a strategy for that, but don't be intimidated the fact everything has to be at a super high production level, right? You want to make sure you have that content out there. So how can you make your assets work for you and be most efficient?
Smart. I like it.
Do you ever find, or how often do you find that when clients come in that they already know what kind of video they need?
Very seldom. I think a lot of times people have an idea of what they think they might want, because they know their business and they're trying to solve some sort of problem with video, right? Mm-hmm. We need more donors. We need more awareness in the community. We need to advertise this part of our service. People don't realize we do this. They only know us for something else. So again, it's really, you want to get to talk to the client and figure out, well, what is the problem that you're trying to solve through video, so that we can really, narrow that down and help people, guide them through that process to be able to solve that problem for the client.
Thank you for joining us today on Extremely Valid Points. We hope you found this podcast to be helpful. Join us next week as we talk about lead magnets and how to capture emails on your website by giving away free content. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for spending time with us at the Extremely Valid Points podcast. To learn more about this episode, see our show notes at extremelyvalidpoints.com. Be sure and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you download your podcasts. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/extremelyvalid. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram at EVP_podcast. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time with some extremely valid points.